Hello and welcome to episode 45 of the Crimson Misery podcast. My name is Will Rainbolt. I hope you all are doing well. It is March 25th, 2025. The first two rounds of the NCAA tournament on the men's and women's side have concluded. We have the Sweet 16 matchups all set for me to break down and also breaking down the round of 32, obviously. So if you are listening on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your podcasts, considering the show 5 stars. If you are listening on YouTube, like, subscribe, comment down below. Let's get right into it. We have a lot to get to. Some unfortunate news, especially coming out of USC with JuJu Watkins. Um, yeah, she suffered a torn ACL in the loss or the win rather. It's a loss for USC um, in terms of her getting hurt, but they did crush Mississippi State 96-59. But Juju Watkins suffered it looked like a torn ACL live. I mean, it looked pretty gruesome. Her driving in the driving in on transition and her leg just went a completely different way than it should have. So that was really unfortunate. Was not very pleased with that. I hope Juju Watkins will return stronger than ever. The game of basketball is better when she plays in it. So definitely heartbreaking news that kind of destroys my prediction that USC was going to win it all this year. Although they still have a lot of talent, but I don't think they can get there without Juju. She was kind of their identity, and it's really going to be difficult to. I mean, I think they can win uh, in the Sweet 16, but I don't know if they can get past the Elite Eight. That's just a bit too much to overcome. So yeah, definitely unfortunate. But let's start with the men's side on Saturday. A couple 1-8 matchups that one of which was a bit less competitive, especially in the second half. The other one got really competitive in the second half. So Auburn takes down Creighton and Ryan Kalkbrenner and Jemiah Neal and Stephen Ashworth, all those guys. Tahad Pettiford had a great game for Auburn. Um, had 23 points off the bench. He was hitting really timely shots this entire game, and really the guards like Chad Baker Mazzara and Denver Jones are making up for a lot of lackluster production from Janai Broom this tournament. I get he was facing Ryan Kalkbrenner, um, but really he hasn't looked like himself um, since the SEC tournament. I mean, he's really struggled, and it's only going to get tougher from him because after this game, they're going to have to face Michigan. Spoiler alert! And Michigan has two 7-footers that they can just throw on him, and so that matchup is going to be really difficult for Janai Broom. I still think Auburn probably wins, but Michigan, especially their guards, have stepped up a lot more this tournament, and I'll get into their game in a second with Texas A&M. But Auburn's in a bit of a danger zone right here because Broom has not been playing very well. He hasn't been shooting the ball well. He's still getting rebounds and he's still affecting the game just for just like playing head games because he can go off at any moment and he can still still a pretty good passer. He can kick it out to a guard like Baker Mazzara or Miles Kelly, even though Kelly didn't have a great game. Um, Against Creighton, it's difficult to get away with Broom not having a great game just because I mean Creighton's not the deepest team and they can also like sometimes struggle with turnovers, and Auburn got quite a few of those, especially live ball turnovers with Stephen Ashworth not handling the rock as well as he probably should have. But all in all, good effort from Creighton, but Auburn just took care of business. Same with Houston over Gonzaga. I had Gonzaga winning this game just because I felt this was a pretty dangerous 1-8 matchup, and for the longest time, it looked like Houston was just going to run away with this. Although Gonzaga definitely got it closer late toward the end of the first half, and then Graham Ike, a fantastic performance at 27, and pretty much willed his way back into this game. But good Lord, LJ Cryer was unreal. He is the X factor. I mean, obviously you have Juwan Roberts and Emmanuel Sharp and Miles Uzan that can definitely step up whenever needed. But if LJ Cryer is shooting the ball well and he takes a lot of shots per game, um, he dropped a 30 burger on Gonzaga, and boy, did Houston need all 30 of those points because Gonzaga, I believe, cut it to three late in the game, and Houston ultimately was just able to close it out. But I'm not sure. Like Houston is going to be facing um, what's their matchup? I completely forgot who they're matching up against. Okay. Um, it has to be the only one that hasn't shown up is Purdue. Um, I mean, I still probably would say Houston wins, although I mean Purdue's I think less scary of a matchup for them than Gonzaga. And I'm saying that just because Purdue is more reliant on their guard play, and they don't have a ton of size outside of Kaufman Rin. I know Will Berger's been giving them some minutes, but I'm just not 100% convinced that Purdue is going to be able to topple Houston at this point in time. Um, Although if LJ Cryer and Milos Uzan and Jawan Roberts have like off shooting nights, then they're gonna struggle because Purdue can hit shots, and I mean, Purdue is probably gonna have to launch a ton of 3 pointers. I think Purdue probably needs to at least make 11 or 12 threes to beat Houston, but um, I still think Houston's probably the likely one to win this game. If this was Houston versus Maryland, say, I think Maryland is a lot tougher of a matchup for Houston, but I'll get to Maryland in a second. I'll get to that Colorado State game too. Oh boy. Finally some excitement. And just to be clear, like the round of 32, even though it had some games that were like kind of picking up where the first weekend left off and kind of like whatever. Overall, like the round of 32 was way better, especially on the men's side, but on the women's side too, you also had some really great matchups that I'll get into later this episode. So, and just to yeah, Purdue defeats McNeese 76-62. This was basically belt to ass. I mean, it was so one-sided this entire game. And so um McNeese and Amir Khan and Will Wade, I mean Amir Khan, the student manager, of course, gets his 15 minutes of fame, and likely, unless NC State makes a run with Will Wade, he's probably going to be um, not fading into obscurity, but just like it wasn't memorable. Because at least for me, it's because they didn't make an incredibly deep run, and two, I just think a lot of it was kind of forced. I mean, I want to make it very clear that being a student manager is an incredibly difficult job and an incredibly difficult role to play, and student managers should be getting respect. I'm not having any disdain toward him as a person, nor the role he plays on the staff. I'm just saying it feels a little forced. That's all I'm going to be saying about that. Again, he's probably a good guy. From everything I could gather from him, I mean, he seems genuine, but I don't know, man. There's something about it, and just the whole like him wearing that yellow, like almost like a I don't know what you would call them because I'm not really a fashion guy, but just kind of like a puff suit in a way with aura on the back of his jacket. It's like it's kind of cringe. I'm not gonna lie, but yeah, that's all I will say about that. So Purdue, yeah, Purdue won very easily. Uh, not a ton to say about Tennessee over UCLA. I pretty much expected that to happen. Although Daymara is going to be really, really difficult to guard the more he develops because he's been getting better throughout the year. He kind of had his coming out game against Indiana, which kind of sucked. But as a 7'3" center with pretty decent touch around the rim and decent, like he's relatively quick for a 7'3" guy. So like the more he develops, that's going to be like he's kind of the reincarnate as Zach Edey when he was at Purdue, and I'm like, bro, the Big Ten doesn't need more of this shit. So yeah, um, but yeah, Tennessee looked pretty good. Chaz Lanier at 20 points, and they're gonna need that shooting against Kentucky because Kentucky has beaten them twice now, and that's gonna be an interesting matchup to watch. My gut pick says Kentucky, just because they always seem to have Tennessee's number, although I'll probably be rooting for Tennessee just because one of my friends, one of my listeners, Tyler from Tennessee, he's always been a pretty good Tennessee fan, and he has both the men's and women's teams for Tennessee in the Sweet 16. Um, Tennessee beating Ohio State. I'll get to that game, and once I get to the women's side, Arkansas and John Calipari take down St. John's. Oh boy. There's a lot to talk about here. So, St. John's, I and perhaps many other people maybe overrated St. John's a little bit. Their defense is not overrated. Let's make very clear on that. Zubi Ejiofor had a bounce back game after not playing very well in their first round matchup against Omaha. He had 23 points, 12 rebounds, and at some points it looked like he was the only one really trying out there. Um, I mean, especially when you look at our um, oh my God, RJ Lewis. That was really tough to watch. He had 9 points, but he was 3 of 17 from the floor. And RJ Lewis was pretty much their X factor. St. John's was 2 of 22 from three. Arkansas 2 of 19. Um, but Rick Pitino made the decision to bench RJ Lewis, despite playing 30 minutes. I mean, it made sense in a way because he did not play very well, although you theoretically want your best players out there, regardless of situation or regardless of how well they've been shooting. Um, but man, that was I was like, why isn't RJ Lewis out there? And I get it, but I also am like, he's still probably your best shooter overall. Um, like at some point, that's probably that's probably you probably need to consider that. A couple of people were probably speculating that Rick Pitino wanted RJ Lewis to check himself into the game, but I'm not entirely sure on that one. I don't know still the reasoning behind it. I don't know if we'll ever know the reason. It's probably um like the with I forget what year with the Patriots and Malcolm Butler. It was after obviously his game sealing interception, but there was a year where he didn't play in a postseason game or something to that extent. I think was it Brady's final year in New England where the Patriots or Bill Belichick like benched Malcolm Butler. I may just be talking out of my ass, but um, anyway, either way, like not a great look for St. John's. Their offense was indeed the this what sealed their fate. Also, I mean, the officiating in this game was horrible. I mean, this game featured so many calls that were just like, do you know the game of basketball? Um, God, I mean, especially um, with, I mean, obviously, like technical fouls aside, there were just so many like ticky tack calls that were going, especially on Arkansas as of late, later on in the game. That was like St. John's was getting quite some beneficial calls, especially with Zubi Ejiofor. But good God, man. I mean, if you're listening to this podcast, you probably got called for a foul against St. John's. Although, to be fair, like St. John or Arkansas also got some pretty favorable calls that were like, huh? I mean, of all the games this weekend, I mean, this was probably the most poorly officiated one. So, yeah, so moving on, Drake, their Cinderella run comes to an end against Texas Tech, 77-64. This is even without Chance McMillan. I'm pretty sure he'll be back for the Sweet 16, although I'm not 100% sure on that. Darian Williams is back though. He had 28 points, 6 rebounds. He made up for any sort of slack without McMillan. Um, Texas Tech is even still regardless of whether or not Chance McMillan plays, Texas Tech is going to be a pretty tough out in the Sweet 16. They're going to be, I believe, they're going to be playing Arkansas. So I mean, that's going to be a pretty interesting matchup to watch. I mean, Bennett starts caps off his career 21 points, 8 assists. I mean, is Bennett starts a junior or a senior? Oh, he's only a junior. Okay. He's probably going to follow Ben McCollum to Iowa. That's right. So the last three Drake head coaches are now in the Big Ten. So, um, yeah, Colorado State with Medved. Um, he is now at Maryland or Maryland, Minnesota. Maryland's still in the tournament. I'm like too wrapped up in this current Maryland, this weird headline where Kevin Willard didn't like show up to a press conference or whatever, and so people are really like weirded out about that. I'm not sure what's happening there. That's why I said Maryland. But Medved is at Minnesota right now. He's from Minneapolis, so it makes sense. And then obviously Darren DeVries is now at Indiana, and now Ben McCollum is at Iowa. So yeah, the last three Drake head coaches are now in the Big Ten, which is pretty. It's like a pipeline. It's a minor league coaching system. So yeah, Drake still with 31 wins this year. Great season for them, of course. This is probably the worst moment for Drake since the Super Bowl halftime show, but yeah, um, had to pull that one. So anyway, yeah, Texas Tech moving on, facing Arkansas. That's going to be pretty interesting to watch. Let's get into let's talk. I'm going to talk about Michigan and Texas A&M first because it looked like Texas A&M was going to pull away from Michigan, especially with A&M's guards, especially with I mean Anderson Garcia hit some pretty big shots, but Wade Taylor went 1 of 8 from three. I thought he was going to get hot at some point, but he was not shooting the ball well. Pharrell Payne had 26, so he was kind of the guy who was um, keeping A&M afloat and on top for a lot of this game because Michigan was, as they usually do, they struggle pretty mightily. Um, to get over the hump. But in this case, once Michigan State grabbed the lead, it was pretty much over. Roddy Gale had a just probably the best game of his career. 26 points, 4 of 6 from three. He was hitting every shot he took seemingly in the second half. And then, of course, I mean, Danny Wolf and Vladislav Golden uh, combined for 37 points. A lot of that was just basically at that point Michigan had pretty much clawed their way back into it, and once they were finally getting into like a rhythm offensively, it was pretty much over for A&M. So it's going to be interesting to see if Michigan can I've already talked about this matchup happening, but Michigan and Auburn is going to be a really intriguing matchup to watch. I mean, can Auburn stop Michigan 7-footers? We'll see. We shall see. Um, yeah, I kind of like I was very bullish on A&M. I believe I picked Michigan to win this game, although I'm actually not sure now. I remember most of my picks. I actually don't remember this one in particular. I'm pretty sure I picked Michigan, but If I'm misremembering and I ended up picking A&M, um, this is probably why I should. I don't know where that paper went that I had my picks on, but anyway, a game that I do remember picking was BYU over Wisconsin, and that happened. That happened. Although Wisconsin, um, they had a fierce comeback. They they pretty much had to match BYU's offense, their 3-point shooting, and they percentage wise they did not match up. But I mean, John Tanjay in his final career game, he drew a ton of fouls, hit a ton of shots, although he didn't hit the one that mattered. So, I mean, John Blackwell also had a really good game. So those two, Tanjay at 37, Blackwell at 21, and I mean, those two combined for 58 points, and Wisconsin still lost because, um, I mean, BYU just hit timely baskets. Richie Saunders is really breaking out. Um, I mean, this game um, pretty much epitomized Wisconsin basketball, and especially under Greg Gard, because there were many moments where Wisconsin, even while they were chipping into it, they could have done a lot more damage. And every single time, there would just be some sort of play that would knock them right back out of the game. And whether it was especially defensively, where Wisconsin defenders were just continuing to get lost on defense, which is something you really don't see from a Wisconsin team all that much, and especially I mean, on drives, BYU was just getting anything they wanted to around the rim. Now that being said, Wisconsin again, they did try to come back in this one, but whatever last second play that Greg Gard drew up, I mean, Jesus Christ. I mean, there were so many last set. I mean, Gonzaga as well with that last possession they had. That was also really terrible. And when they had a shot to tie it. I forgot I wanted to mention that. Um yeah, Gonzaga also drew up a really bad play that like got them in the corner, and then the shot was like really like heavily contested and had like no shot at going in. This was kind of the same case. Like John Tanjay had a pretty decent look at a three while you're down, and there was still like 5 seconds left. You probably could have um like taken that shot and still had time to rebound it, or at least had a shot to rebound it. And it's still a good look for a good shooter, but he like passed that up and instead tried to take a contested like baseline floater or baseline jumper rather, and he airballed it to end the game. It was just like, bro, what is that? I mean that was I mean that was horrible. So yeah, BYU moves on. They'll be facing Alabama, but for Wisconsin, I've said it before, I'll say it again. Greg Gard has not made the Sweet 16 since 2017. And this is a team that I mean, looking at it, I mean, this might be one of his more talented squads that he's ever had. Um, and yet, and yet, uh, he still came up short. So again, I just do not trust Greg Gard in March, and because I mean, so many Wisconsin fans were saying to everyone, "Oh yeah, it's Greg Gard March. Greg Gard in March is a different animal." Yeah, he's a different animal in the fact that he like gets exposed every year for like the dumbest possible reasons. So anyway, yeah, that is why I did not trust Wisconsin. So anyway, Florida. Oh my God, Danny Hurley and UConn end up falling. There is no three-peat. Florida won a battle after Florida was hitting tough shot after tough shot, whether it's from Elijah Martin or Walter Clayton, or Will Richard. They, especially Walter Clayton, he was the guy who really propelled Florida to this win. Um, I mean, if you want to look at why UConn also lost this game, I mean, Sure, there were some weird foul calls, but when you're shooting, when your three best shooters and the guys who take the most threes on your team go 2 for 8, 2 for 9, and 2 for 9, that's a pretty big indicator of how you messed up. Like Liam McNeely, to his credit, was hitting some shots in the lane. He was getting to the line and he made his shots. UConn went 19 for 22. Florida went 22 of 34. They were missing quite a few free throws. And again, like UConn probably wasn't getting the most favorable whistle, but Danny Hurley's also just a crybaby. And after the game, he was caught on camera saying to Baylor, "I hope they don't fuck you like they fucked us." Um, and it was like, what a pathetic loser. And apparently, UConn was like trying to not get that video leaked out. Um, I believe the AD was like, "We'll ruin your life" or something to that extent to the person who ended up getting that video. Yeah. So that's what you get when you're UConn. I mean the what a I mean I would have been more sympathetic had like UConn actually like gone out with a little bit more grace, but I do not care. They've won two championships in a row. Their fan base is pretty toxic overall, and I just again Dan Hurley is such an unlikable piece of shit. So I really am just like, yeah, I really just like, I don't even know, man. Um, yeah, I literally just like, um, yeah, yeah, there's an honor in the way we went out, bro. Fuck you. You were literally like, um, yeah, literally just shouting to the Baylor team, like, yeah, I hope they don't fuck you like they fucked us, Baylor. Like, yeah, really, really honorable. Um, God, I hate that guy. And I'm glad he's out of the tournament. Um, yeah, I'm just yeah. The less said about Dan Hurley, the better. Um, anyway, so. But yeah, Florida moving on. They'll face Maryland. I'll get to that game shortly. The other one v not oh well, other one seed was Duke. They obliterated Baylor as per usual. Cooper Flag looks great. Tyrese Proctor looks great. What else do you really need to what else do you really need to see from this team? Tyrese Proctor um hit like he seemingly hit like 6 or 7 threes in a row. Yeah, he was 7 of 8 from three. um, I mean, this Duke team again, they're according to Ken Palm rankings, they're like one of the best teams of all time at a plus 30 plus 39 on adjusted efficiency margin. I mean, that's unheard of. I mean, I'm pretty sure like dating back to 2002 when Ken Palm first kept track of this. I mean, this has to be a record. I mean, I'm pretty sure it is. Um, even even Kentucky when they went started 38-0 with Carl Anthony Towns and Devin Booker and Trey Lyles, like they were only plus 36. Villanova in 2018 with Jalen Brunson and Dante DiVincenzo and Mikal Bridges and Amari Spellman, 33 plus 33. Um, 2019 Virginia plus 34. Gonzaga when I mean that was a COVID year, but plus 36. I mean, UConn last year was plus 36 as well, and this Duke team is plus 39. It's almost plus 40, which is unheard of. So, yeah, Duke should be the national title favorite for sure, and the way their team plays backs that up. So, anyway, um Alabama defeated St. Mary's 80 to 66. Not surprising at all. Um Yeah, I really don't have much to say about this one. It's going to be pretty interesting though to see Alabama versus BYU, and two teams that can really shoot the basketball. It's going to be pretty interesting to watch. I still like if I had to guess, probably Alabama wins, but yeah, I'm not. I'll do my predictions here in a little bit, so I'll see where that ends up going, and then but also like again, if it all depends on if Mark Sears has a good shooting night, of course. Uh, Alabama still has a lot of depth that they have, so we'll see. And the other two matchup, 2v10 this time is Michigan State over New Mexico, 71-63. New Mexico played pretty hard, but Michigan State was just hitting very timely shots once again. Um, Jaden Akins hit some big shots down the stretch, had 16 points. Trey Holloman had 14 off the bench. Frankie Fiddler had 10 off the bench. Even when Michigan State's not shooting very well, they still had a pretty solid matchup in this one. They were able to hold Donovan Dent to 14 points. Nelly Jr. Joseph had 16. So the fact that they were able to keep their firepower relatively in check and then were not really allowing anyone else, aside from Mufasa Amzil, who had 14, but like even still, Michigan State just is really solid. Especially in the second half, they outscored New Mexico by 10, and that was pretty much the difference. Um, yeah, even though like I will say Michigan State did get a pretty favorable whistle in this one. Uh, Nelly Jr. Joseph did foul out of this game. And Michigan State had 28 free throw attempts compared to just 10 for New Mexico. So that is also something to like I should definitely mention. But even still, Michigan State versus Ole Miss is going to be also a very interesting game because that's right, Ole Miss absolutely dismantled Iowa State 91-78. Sean Padula had 20 points. So, of the SEC teams to make the Sweet 16, I kind of wasn't expecting Ole Miss to do that, but here they are. They really played well. And yeah, again, Iowa State just without Keshawn Gilbert, that was probably going to happen at some point, but yeah, 26 from Curtis Jones wasn't enough to save them. Yeah, sorry, Iowa State, your season's over. Um, and again, this is why I wasn't as high on Iowa State's defense as most people, because good lord, the numbers that Ole Miss put up were pretty crazy. Um, I mean, Jamin Brakefield once again coming off the bench had 19. Matthew Morrell had 15. I mean, Padula had 20. 11 for 19 from three. Ole Miss was hitting seemingly every shot they took. So yeah, Iowa State's defense let them down this time around. And Ole Miss is moving on. They'll face Michigan State. Kentucky defeated Illinois 84-75. I had Illinois winning this game, I'm pretty sure. But Kentucky was able to catch Illinois 9 for 32 from three. So the Illinois that really had been showing up for most of the year showed up in this game, of course, against a defense that you probably shouldn't be going 9 of 32 from three against. Yeah, Kobe Brea had 23 points. He was the star in this one. Kentucky was just getting they were getting way more aggressive, and it just seemed like Illinois was just not really prepared for it most of the game, especially in the second half when Kentucky finally started to pull away. You can tell there was just kind of a mismatch there. Um, and you probably shouldn't have Thomas Slavovicic shooting 12 threes a game. That's the other thing that I was continuing to just say, like, why is he shooting so much in this game? But yeah, so Kentucky wins. Kentucky versus Tennessee, all SEC matchup. I think Kentucky probably wins just because of the matchup against Tennessee, but I will be rooting for Tennessee, as I said. Arizona defeated Oregon in a game where Oregon led pretty big in the start of this game, and I was like, "Oh, okay. Well, Oregon's really taking control of this game." And then Arizona was like, "Ah, you know what? Caleb Love decided to have his best game of the year with 29 points, 10 of 18 from the floor, 5 of 7 from three. Like, where's this Caleb? Where was this Caleb Love the entire year? But hey, he's showing up now. I mean, better this time than um than any other. So like, still just like, man, I said I didn't trust this Arizona team coming in, and I still am like, again, this on. There have been so many times where it's like, yeah, this Arizona team's just not that good. And then you have games like this where they rally big time against an Oregon team that, again, while they have their problems, still played pretty well overall. I mean, Jackson Shelstad had 25, Nate Biddle had 16. It was really weird of Lisa Byington to say like Nate Biddle doesn't shoot a lot of threes when he makes like one or two a game. It's like, or isn't a good 3-point shooter or whatever she said. And then, of course, Jalen Rose was just like, get him off telecasts for March Madness, man. I no, that's not no. Um, but it was weird their late game execution Oregon's was because like it's always that philosophy where you're like, when do you shoot like your last best shot to get a three when the opponent is clearly going to foul you? And Oregon decided not to take that opportunity, instead drove for two. Um, yeah, was not a fan of that, and Arizona pretty much sealed the game at that point. They made their free throws, they were able to stop Oregon. So Arizona Duke, wow, that's going to be a great matchup. And I also yawned. Although a great matchup I say is Duke wins by like 25. So, and Caleb Love is probably going to go like 2 for 10 from three or some number like that. Yeah, so but the best matchup of the tournament so far, Maryland, Colorado State. Good Lord, what a game, because Colorado State was leading for a lot of this game. Maryland, of course, their starting lineup, all of them were in double figures. But it looked like Colorado State was going to pull away from this one, and then Maryland rallied in the second half. It took the lead late, and then they were up, I believe, by two. And then Colorado State, Jalen Lake hit the go-ahead three with 6 seconds left to take a 71-70 lead. And then Derek Queen ended up driving in on Ethan Morton, uh, did like a contested fadeaway jumper, banked it off glass for the win. Maryland wins 72-71. Now, a lot of people were saying it was a travel. I I don't necessarily like, it's a close call, but you don't make that call late, genuinely. Or generally. Excuse me, I am really tired. This is great podcasting. But at this point, like, you had the best moment of the tournament so far with a buzzer beater, and people are like still complaining about it, like, oh, it was a travel, when it was a pretty close call overall. Um, just be happy it was a it was a buzzer beater, man. Like this tournament has been pretty scarce for exciting moments. So like when we do get some, and people are like, "Oh, it was actually a travel," just it's fine. Like it was a pretty close call overall. So like, yeah, I don't really. I don't really know what else to say about that other than like just enjoy it while it lasts, you know? And I will say the size of Maryland, especially with Queen and Reese, definitely played a big factor in this one. Oh my God, I'm so tired. Like, I got a pretty good night's sleep. I've been getting good night's sleeps since I've been taking my melatonin gummies, but you know, at the same time, maybe I should like actually turn a light on because I like podcasting in the dark quite a bit. I have like better energy when I podcast with the lights off, but I guess I will turn my lamp on and try to make me a little less yawny. So, but as I was saying, like Julian Reese and and Derek Queen especially, they made big plays down the stretch that got them this win, and that can provide be pretty pivotal whenever they play Florida. And I I definitely that's why I think Maryland can beat Florida, or at least remain in the game because I think Maryland does have the shooting and scoring ability to hang with Maryland. It's just if they're able to stop Walter Clayton and Elijah Martin and Will Richard, and obviously Florida has bigs of their own that they could just throw at you like they threw at UConn. Nope, that did not help. Okay, well, anyway, um, so yeah, to preview the Sweet 16, now that I've gotten the recaps out of the way, let's go to predictions. Let's go to prediction time. So we have 4 games on Thursday, 4 games on Friday. BYU Alabama is the first game at 7:09. Although I I would want to you know, I I'm probably going to go Alabama, although if BYU hits enough shots and Richie Saunders is able to go off against an Alabama defense that isn't all that great, like this game could easily end up in the 90s, maybe even the hundreds. Um, Good lord, this is going to be a shootout. Maryland, Florida is up next. I'm gonna call an upset. I have Maryland. I have Maryland over Florida. I think Maryland's gonna do it somehow. A 4-1 in the Sweet 16. Arizona Duke. I yeah, Duke. I don't think Arizona. I think Arizona's run-ins here, especially in Newark, New Jersey. It's a little bit closer to home for Duke than to Arizona. I just think Duke is going to win this game. And then Arkansas, Texas Tech. This definitely depends on if Chance McMillan it plays for Texas Tech, but for some reason, I just feel like the John Calipari bullshit magic is going to happen somehow for Arkansas. They've been playing better as of late. Um, I'm unfortunately going to pick Arkansas here. Yes, I have BYU and Maryland, or no, Alabama. Okay, I have Alabama, Maryland, Duke, Arkansas for the first day, and then for Friday slate of games, Michigan State, Ole Miss. As much as Ole Miss, I think can win this game, I just think Michigan's size and Michigan's depth is going to be a little too much for Ole Miss. I have Michigan State winning this one, and then Kentucky, Tennessee. As much as I'll probably be rooting for Tennessee, I think Kentucky. I'm gonna go ahead and pick Kentucky here. Michigan, Auburn. Although I feel like Michigan can win this game, I have a really difficult time picking against Auburn. So I have Auburn winning this one. I think it's going to be an Auburn Michigan State matchup, and then I have Houston over Purdue. Although, like my Purdue family is you know hopefully maybe Purdue finds a way to win this game. I don't think so. Although it is in Lucas Oil, it is in Indianapolis. So yeah, Purdue. I think they could definitely have a shot to win this game, but we'll see. All right, so on to the women's side. Indiana ended up falling to South Carolina. Indiana led by 1 at halftime, so there was that. But yeah, South Carolina took over in the second half and just blew Indiana's doors off. So yeah, not much of a surprise. Indiana's season comes to an end. Although I will say I am pretty proud of the team for being competitive with South Carolina, holding them to just um, 27 points in the first half is not something teams are able to do all the time. So um, but yeah, not aside from that, not a ton more to say about it. Thank you, Chloe Moore McNeil and Sydney Parrish, for the uh, the work you all have done. Oh my god, I'm so sleepy. I'm so sleepy. That's all I'll ever be. Um, but yeah, so Indiana, yeah. Good. Thanks for the memories to the seniors. So yeah, UCLA also defeated Richmond. Also not a surprise. Lauren Betts had 30 points, 14 rebounds. she's going to be really difficult to play against in the Sweet 16. Duke defeated Oregon 59 to 53. This was a closer game. Oregon, um, I believe they led by 5 at halftime, and then Duke, kind of like South Carolina did against Indiana, they sort of just took over in the third quarter and were like, "Yeah, we're better than Oregon." And I mean, this is an Oregon team that, despite not looking great during the regular season, like still played pretty well overall against Duke, especially in Cameron Indoor Stadium. But yeah, Duke Duke was able to uh, pull this one out. Um, Ashton Jackson had a pretty great game with 20 points. She hit some pretty timely shots down the stretch. So Duke and Carolina is going to be really good. So TCU defeated Louisville 85 to 70. So Haley Van Lith does get revenge on her old team. Despite Jada Curry having 41 points in this one, she was the star in this one. But TCU overall, just as a team, was way better. Um, I mean, Donovan Hunter had 18 points in this one. She hit some big shots. Sedona Prince had 19. Agnes Emma Inopu had 23. Haley Van Lith had 16. So yeah, TCU as a team is just really scary to play against. Um, and Louisville going on the road, it was just like, yeah, this probably isn't going to happen for Louisville. Good year overall, though. Notre Dame pretty much handled Michigan, despite the freshmen playing very well this year, especially Silas Swords, especially Olivia Olson. Notre Dame was just way too good, uh, way too much size. They were leading by 20 after the first quarter, and really didn't get more competitive than that. So not a ton more to say, although Notre Dame, we'll see in their matchup against, I believe they're playing. Who are they? Are they? I think they're playing TCU next. Um, is that right? Where is their schedule? Yeah, they're playing TCU. They've already played TCU and they lost, so that's going to be a pretty interesting matchup. I'll get into my predictions here in a second. Um, Yeah, so we'll see what ends up happening there. Kansas State, this was a 5 over 4 day. Kansas State, or yeah, Kansas State beats Kentucky 80 to 79 in overtime. Kentucky had a shot to win this game late, like in the fourth quarter, but I don't think they got a shot off. Or if they did get a shot off, it wasn't great. And then Tamira Poindexter basically buried the game-winning three. Um, she had 24 points, 6 rebounds, 6 blocks in this one. I mean that's a pretty great performance going on the road. Even though this wasn't in Rupp, it was still. I mean, because Lexington had Rupp Arena was hosting the first and second rounds in the NCAA men's tournament, so they did not get home court advantage. Had they done that, I feel like they probably would have gotten um, more of an edge, but Kentucky ends up falling in the round of 32. Same with Ole Miss, who lost to, or same with Baylor, rather, who lost to Ole Miss 69 to 63. Baylor's season comes to an end. Ole Miss, both the men's and women's teams are in the Sweet 16. Um, Same with Tennessee, who beat Ohio State 82 to 67. This was a bit of a surprise. Um, Not like who won. I mean, I had Tennessee winning this game, but like Ohio State, like they kind of choked down the stretch this year. I mean, they started off really well, but down the stretch they just kind of faltered. I mean, Cody McMahon is still a really great player. Jelani Cambridge is, but like Tennessee really showed their true team strength in this one, and so um, yeah, with Talasia Cooper coming off the bench at 19, Z Spearman at 17 coming off the bench. Um, I mean, that's 36 bench points. And then, I mean, they had 38 bench points overall compared to just 13 for Ohio State. So that was a big reason why. And Tennessee's defense was just able to stop. Ohio State for much of this game. Even when Ohio State was trying to come back in the third quarter, Tennessee was able to just grab the wheel again and say, "Now we're not losing this game," and they didn't. So Tennessee versus Texas is going to be a pretty interesting matchup to watch. So, speaking of which, Texas defeated Illinois 65-48. Not a ton to say about this one. Madison Booker had 20 points. It's going to be a very interesting matchup between Texas, who has a great defense, and Tennessee, who is very inconsistent offensively, but also I feel like might be able to pull off an upset. We'll see. Of all the one seeds in the Sweet 16, it's probably between Texas and USC who go down in the Sweet 16. USC I've already talked about. I mean, Kiki Uriafen still had a great game picking up where JuJu left off. 36 points, 9 rebounds. But yeah, still unfortunate that Watkins is hurt. Um, UConn in Paige Becker's last game in stores had 34 points, which I believe is close to a career high or is a career high or tied for it, something like that. But she went out against South Dakota State 91-57. Yeah, they're in the Sweet 16. Same with NC State, who defeated. I mean, this is just such a chalk bracket, similar to the men's side as well. NC State defeated Michigan State 83-49. Not a big surprise, although um, I mean, I thought Michigan State would be a little more competitive in this one, but they just kind of got obliterated. So, uh, yeah, Sinai Rivers, Zoe Brooks, they're going to be really dangerous duo to watch out for. Oklahoma defeated Iowa 96-62. Lucy Olson had 20 points in this one. I believe it's her. I'm pretty sure it's her last college game. Uh, so congratulations, you get to go out with a 34-point loss to Oklahoma. Um, yeah, Peyton Verhulst and Reagan Beers and Skylar Van and Sahara Williams. That's another team that's really deep, and I also think can cause a little bit of matchup problems. I believe they are playing. Who are they playing? Um, they are playing. Oh God, who's their matchup against UConn? I feel like Oklahoma can be a bit of a matchup problem for UConn, but I'll get to that in my prediction. So yeah, and then LSU, I I had Florida State winning this one, and what was I thinking? Because LSU won by 30. Uh, yeah, I mean, now that Flau'jae Johnson is back, um, Anissa Morrow is back as well. Uh, Samaya Smith, jeez Louise, Michaela Williams, 28 point. I mean, this was just slaughter. I mean, despite Tania Lotson having 30 points, that yeah, it was just. Maybe have to reassess my LSU slander, although fuck him, Mulkey. All right, so North Carolina defeated West Virginia 58-47. Again, the defense of North Carolina and the defense of Duke, now that they're meeting in the Sweet 16, is going to be really interesting to watch. Um, Alyssa Utsby had 21 points, 7 rebounds, 4 assists in this one. It really we're just making West Virginia uncomfortable this whole game. So yeah, I mean, not a big surprise, although West Virginia still, I'm surprised we're that low scoring, especially um, with JJ Quinterly, but she only had 8 points, 2 of 12 from the floor. Sydney Shaw was only 2 of 10, so not a great shooting night. I believe she was also like 1 of 7 or 1 of 8 from three. She was not shooting the ball well, so yeah, North Carolina moving on. And then the game of the women's tournament also involved Maryland. 111-108. Um, oh my good Lord. In double overtime. This was a game where Alabama um, was up by three, I believe. I mean, this was a back and forth game in regulation. But it looked like Alabama took decent control of this game. I mean, they were up, I believe, 9 or 10 heading into the fourth quarter. And then Maryland was like all of a sudden chipping away. Cheyenne Sellers, now that she was back, she's been playing better. But I believe it was Sarah Ashley Barker who had like, I believe she dropped a 40 burger on Maryland. Um, yeah, she hit a three, I believe, with like 40 seconds left to take a 3-point lead. And then Sarah Tibiasso had also made a three to tie the game. And then in overtime, I believe it was Maryland who was up in this one, and then Sarah Ashley Barker got fouled at the buzzer on a 3-point jumper. That's why you foul like before that point. Sailor Poffenbarger, I think um, made one of two that could have given Maryland a 4-point lead, but instead it was just three. But Sarah Ashley Barker made all three free throws to send it into double overtime. And then Alabama, after Maryland made some free throws after they took the lead for good, Alabama could not get a shot off. And Maryland ends up winning this one again. Sarah Ashley Barker had 45 points in this one. She was trying to will her team to victory, but Maryland, Cheyenne Sellers. I mean, I know Maryland is hurt. They're not. They will not be 100% this year, but a Sweet 16 matchup even still is pretty impressive. Um, Caitlin Spiegel also at 24. Sarah also 26. I mean, yeah, just an incredible game. Um, yeah, Essence Cody at 18 as well for Alabama. I mean, this was just a high-powered matchup, and um, glad the Big Ten won, even still. But yeah, that was the game of the women's tournament, and the best games of the men's and women's tournaments so far both involved Maryland, which I don't know what that says, but even still. Anyway, so on Friday, looking ahead to the Sweet 16, we have North Carolina Duke. Uh, well, my heart says Duke wins this game. I mean, I think North Carolina, now that they're healthy, especially with Renaya Kelly and Alyssa Utsby back, I think North Carolina will win this game. Maryland, South Carolina, as much as I want Maryland to win somehow, I just think South Carolina is the much better team. I think it will be a South Carolina North Carolina matchup in the Elite Eight. And then LSU, NC State. I was going to pick NC State, but now I think I'm going to pick LSU just because they looked so dominant. Um, in the against Florida State. So yeah, I'm gonna go with LSU against NC State, and then Ole Miss UCLA. I have UCLA. I think Ole Miss's run ends here. What a tongue twister. Lauren Betts, I think, is just gonna go off in that one. I think she's gonna be pretty hard to stop. Notre Dame TCU. I'm gonna go with TCU. TCU already has the victory against Notre Dame. And yeah, it's closer to home for TCU in Birmingham. I just think that Notre Dame has been a little bit more inconsistent than they should have been later on in the season. I know they played better, but I just think TCU is the better team here. I have TCU winning this one. Tennessee over Texas. Yeah, I'm gonna go Tennessee over Texas. That's right. I think Texas is going down. They they haven't been they've definitely struggled a little bit more as of late. Texas has. Their wins haven't been looking as impressive, and I think Tennessee. Um, I think they're going to pull off the upset. Yeah. Oklahoma, Yukon. As much as I want to pick Oklahoma, just because I think they have the talent to match up with Yukon, I just think Yukon's going to win this game. Just because Paige Beckers is going to have another really great performance, and uh, Sarah Strong and AZ Fudd, and uh, it's going to be pretty tough to beat this Yukon team. So I think it's going to be close, but I still have Yukon. And then Kansas State versus USC. Although, like, Kansas State has played pretty well and USC is going to be without JuJu Watkins, I think USC wins this game. Although I think the Elite Eight might be their peak because I'm pretty sure they have to play UConn if they do win. So I think UConn is going to, whoever wins the Oklahoma UConn game, I think is going to the Final Four. So anyway, yeah, with that being said, I want a little bit of an update from the NIT. Um, so yeah, Bradley defeated George Mason. UC Irvine won. They won 66-61 over Jacksonville State. Um, just looking at a couple of interesting games in that particular region. So Bradley is also in action. They're going to be facing Chattanooga. Uh, North Texas will be facing Oklahoma State in the quarterfinals. And then Wednesday we have UC Irvine, UAB, Loyola Chicago, Kent State. Um, what I wouldn't give for UC Irvine and Bradley to go even further. So that's kind of what I hope happens. But anyway, with that being said, I think that'll do it for me this episode. Thank you all very much for listening. Enjoy the Sweet 16. Enjoy the Elite Eight. I will be at the South Regional Final on Sunday. Presumably, if I had to guess, it's probably going to be between Auburn and Michigan State, although they're still Sweet 16 games. That's why they play the games. So, certainly we'll let you know how that goes. And yeah, I will see you all next time. Bye bye.